Hey guys, Ralph here. Welcome to this tutorial video. I am super excited to show you what we're going to build in this one. It'll be this. It's a Shopify app that generates blog articles using an article title, an article description, and products that you're providing it with. It's using GPT-3 behind the scenes. It will generate a blog article for you in Shopify, and it'll dynamically add these buy buttons, allowing your buyers to add the products to cart. These products are the products I select here, and GPT-3 uses the product descriptions and this input to generate the blog article. This tutorial is going to take only 20 minutes, and I'll provide all of the links and code needed in the video description. And in the last 20 minutes, I'm going to go through the code in detail in case you want to edit or tweak something. But if you don't, you'll only have to spend 20 minutes and you'll have an app that can do this. I hope you enjoy it, and let's dive into it. Okay, so we're going to get started by building the backend of our application, and to do that, we're going to use a service called Gadget. You can find it at gadget.dev, and it is essentially a fully hosted serverless stack for e-commerce apps. You get a lot of things out of the box in Gadget that we're not going to be using today, but we will be using the managed database, the Javascript runtime environment that has NPM package support, and the APIs. And then probably most important, we're going to be using Gadget's Shopify integration, which is essentially the secret sauce of what makes the app so easy and fast to build. And I'll show you how or why that is in a minute. And for full disclosure, I work at Gadget, so if you have any questions about Gadget or about Shopify app development, I would be happy to answer those. If you don't already have a Gadget account, you can get started for free by clicking up here. I naturally have one, so I'm just going to go ahead and log in, and I'm going to be using my Google account here. And when you land in Gadget, you can either select an app if you already have created one. We're going to create a new app today because I want to show you how we do this app from start to finish. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new app here. And then I'm being asked to give my application a name. So I'm going to call this GPT-3 articles. And when I say articles, it's just what Shopify calls blogs. And when I've selected a name here, I automatically get an application domain. So I get a gpt3-articles.gadget.app. So I get a URL for my application or my backend. So I'm going to hit get started here, and then Gadget has spun up a backend, a hosted backend for me that we could really do anything with, but obviously we want to build a Shopify app today. So let's go ahead and do that. And like I said, I'm not going to show everything that you can do in Gadget, but I would be happy to answer any questions that you might have. So to create our Shopify app, we're going to go ahead and click connections over here. And then in here, we're going to select Shopify. And you can build all types of Shopify apps with Gadget, no matter if you're using the partners flow, you want to use Shopify CLI, or if you want to use admin connections, you can do that, or create admin apps. But we're going to stick with the partners one because it suits the purpose that we're doing today, and it's the easiest to use. And what Gadget is asking for here is essentially a Shopify client ID and a Shopify client secret. And we're going to get those from Shopify. So I'm going to go ahead and go to shopify.com/partners. If you don't already have a partners account, it's free to sign up for. What it allows you to do is to create test stores and apps that you can use for development. And like I said, if you haven't already signed up for an account, do that. It's free. Again, I naturally have an account, so I'm just going to go ahead and log in. And if this is the first time that you log in to your partner's account, what I'm going to suggest that you do is that you pause this video, you head over to stores here, and you create yourself a free development store. Add a couple of products to it, and then come back to this video and we'll continue. You'll be needing those products in order for you to have products to create articles with. So once you've done that, head over to apps here in the left hand nav, and we're going to go ahead and create an app. You can see I've created a bunch of apps here previously. I've run through this demo a few times, but we're going to create a new app so I can show you how to do this from scratch. And then we're going to create an app manually here, and then we'll be giving our app a name. So let's call this Magical GPT-3 Articles. And hit create. Once we've done that, Shopify is going to give us this client ID and client secret that Gadget is asking for. So I'm going to hit this little copy button here, and I'm going to paste it into Gadget here, go back, and then copy the client secret, and then paste that in here. Go ahead and click connect, and what you're shown here in Gadget is essentially all the Shopify APIs that you can use when you're building your apps with Gadget. So depending on what app you want to build, you'll find the APIs in here, and you can select if you want to have read or write scopes. So we want to have two APIs that we want to interact with. First of all, we want to be able to create articles or blogs, and we also want to be able to read products because we want to have product descriptions. So I already know that blogs here are under content, so I'm going to go ahead and select that I want write scopes here, and then I'm going to select articles here. We don't need comments, events, pages, etc., so I'm not going to be clicking those. And then we want products as well, right? So I'm going to go ahead and search for products here. I can see that they're here. We only need read, we don't need write access here. We're only going to be reading products, and I'm going to select this product model here. This contains all of the information that we need, including the product description, IDs, etc. So I'm not going to be selecting product image, options, variants, etc. because we really don't need it for the purposes that we have today. Then you have a ton of options in here that is useful if you're building public apps or private apps. We're not going to be using them for the demo, so just disregard them and hit confirm. And the next step here is to set up the Shopify Partners app that we created moments ago and point that to the Gadget backend that we built. So we got our app URL here. So I'm going to be copying this. I'm going to go back to my Shopify Partners account, and in here, I'm going to select on click on App Setup here in the left-hand corner. Then Shopify has provided some default URLs that we want to replace. So the app URL, I'm going to be pasting my Gadget app URL, and then I'm going to go back to Gadget. I'm going to copy this allowed redirection URL, and I'm going to be pasting that here in the allowed redirection URL. And this essentially allows us to tell Shopify that, hey, this app that I'm creating now, it lives on this URL on the internet. So when you're trying to interface with it, when you're trying to install it, this is where you want to go. Once we've done that, save that, we're going to go ahead and click Overview again. And now we're going to be completing the installation process. So we're going to do that by under here, test your app. We're going to select which store we want to test our app on, and this is why you need to have created a store previously. I'm going to use my Prestige Worldwide the search store here, and just gonna head and click install app. And what you're going to see now is if you've installed Shopify's app before, Shopify apps before, you're going to recognize this. This is just the OAuth screen. Just want to pause here and say that if you were building your app from scratch by yourself, you would probably spend a couple of hours setting up the OAuth flow to make this possible. This is something that you get out of the box with Gadget, where we've set up this, and what we're doing behind the scenes now is that we're configuring your app to listen to Shopify webhooks and essentially making your app ready to both listen and read and write to Shopify with the APIs that we configured. And that is now set up. So if we go into our Shopify store here, we can see that this Magical GPT-3 Articles is an app that we've installed. If I click on that, we're going to see just a default page that we've set up that says you've successfully installed this app. And if we go back to Gadget, we can see here that it says that we completed or we have successfully installed our app. So if we click through that, we get to this connection page. I'm going to hit here where it says shop installs, and here I'm going to see that this application that I've built is installed on this shop URL, Prestige Worldwide the search.myshopify.com. So this is it. We've actually built a Shopify app. It's not doing anything yet, but you have set up a fully functioning Shopify app that will be able to sync data and to listen to webhooks and do actions and write to Shopify. So before we start building the sort of the GP3 bit of it, I'm just going to show something that we need to do first. So I'm going to hit this sync button here, and what that will do is that Gadget will download all of the product and blog and article data that we have on our store and store that in our local database. So if I go in here, I can see all of the products that I have on my store. It's these products that I have in here. So Gadget have copied those from Shopify. And I also have a couple of articles that I've already created previously. And then we have also the blog, which is the parent of the articles that I've just gone ahead and called inspiration. All Shopify stores comes with a blog out of the box, so you don't really have to care about creating one. It's already there for you. And if I update something in Shopify here as an example, if I go and say update this to this charming chocolate sauce and hit save, because my Gadget app is automatically or is already hooked up to Shopify and listening to webhooks, we're automatically going to be seeing that update come through to my Gadget app. So my Gadget app will always be up to date with whatever changes to do in Shopify. Okay, with that done, let's go ahead and dive into building the sort of the business logic of our application, what we want it to do. And that is taking, providing an embedded embedded app that has a form that allows you to give a title, a description of your blog, select a couple of products, send it off to GPT-3, generate an article, and create that article in Shopify. So what I'm going to do is that we're going to be using Gadget's routes to do this, and we're going to go click in here under Files, Routes, Shopify. We're going to hit this get install.js. So this is actually the screen that is shown when we click through here. So we're just going to be using these, this one right here. I'm actually going to see if I could be, I wanted to pin that. I couldn't do that. Never mind. So we're essentially going to replace this default text here with something else that gives us that form. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to copy paste the code that we're going to be using. The code is linked in the description below. I'm going to go through and explain how it works, but I just want to first complete the app, and then we'll show how it works, and I'll go through it. So don't worry about this part going very quickly. We'll come back and look at this code. So with this code set up, if I refresh this page here, we're immediately going to see that this have now a form that we can use. And then we want to say, when we click this create article, we want to have something in Gadget that captures the data, generates the blog post, and posts that to Shopify. So we're going to go ahead and create a file that does that as well. So under Shopify here, we're going to create the plus sign. We're going to create a file that gets named get.a.js by default. We're going to be renaming that, and what we'll be renaming it to is create article. And it's important that the C is lowercase and article is uppercase, and that we keep the .js. So let's go ahead and rename that, and then we're going to go ahead and copy and paste some code in here. And again, I'll come back and explain this code in a few minutes. I just want us to complete everything else to make sure that it works, and it will be a lot easier to explain it to you as we see it in action. So now we have two code files that is ready for us to do everything that we need this app to do. There's just two things that we need to get done first. We got to set up our OpenAI integration, and we got to go and get a storefront access token from Shopify. So let's start with the OpenAI bit. So in order to make this app communicate with OpenAI, we're going to go and use their NPM package. So if you, I'm going to leave a link to this page in the description. But we're going to be using this NPM package version 3.1.0. And the way to do that in Gadget is that we have a package.json here. I'm going to click on that, and then we're going to be adding this package. And this package is essentially an abstraction of OpenAI's APIs that allows us to integrate with OpenAI without writing a bunch of code ourselves. So it makes it really, really simple for us to use OpenAI. So in here, I'm going to write OpenAI : and then 3.1.0 because that's the version that they're on. And then I'm going to hit run yarn here, and that's going to be installing this package on our Gadget app. And while that's running for a few seconds, let's go ahead and do the next thing with OpenAI. So we've now created the integration, but we got to have some API keys for us to be able to communicate with OpenAI. So I'm going to go to openai.com. I'm going to click on API here. If you don't already have an account, sign up. It's free. I think that OpenAI still provides new users with some credits, which means that you don't have to provide your credit card. You can do all of the testing that we're doing today for free. But I already have an account, so I'm going to go ahead and hit log in. And then I'm just going to log in with my Google account here. And once you've signed up or you've logged in, you should be seeing something that looks like this. Up here in the right hand corner under personal, click here. You see that there's an option called view API keys. Click on that, and then we're going to be creating a new secret key. Go ahead and copy that, and don't close this out yet. Just copy this and then go back to Gadget. And in Gadget, under settings here, we're going to be selecting the environment variables option. And what we're going to do here is that we're going to be saving this API key to Gadget so Gadget can use it. And we're going to be naming it OpenAI _API _key. And then we'll be pasting the value that we just copied from OpenAI here into both of these fields. We're only going to be using Gadget's development environment today. We also have a production environment, but I'm not going to be complicating this demo by using that. But if you're curious about how it works, if you want to be building Shopify apps that have a production environment and development environment, you can definitely do that with Gadget. Okay. That means that we've set up OpenAI to be, or for Gadget to be able to communicate with OpenAI. Then the last thing that we want to do is to get a Shopify storefront access token. And we're going to be doing that by setting up a buy button. There's different ways of doing this, but I'm just going to show it this way because it's pretty simple for everyone to see how it works. So in your Shopify store, go to apps, and then we're going to go ahead and click app and sales channel settings. And in here, we're then going to select the Shopify app store. And here we're going to search for buy button. And then the first option that you should probably see is Shopify's buy button channel here. So let's go ahead and add that app, and we would see this OAuth page. So let's add this sales channel to our store. And what we're going to do next is that we're going to be creating a buy button here. So let's go ahead and create that, and then select product buy button. And it doesn't matter which product you select here, so I'm just going to select the Charming chocolate sauce here, and then hit select. And then you can go ahead and style your button, but know that I have already copy pasted the HTML that this generates. So if you style this here, you're going to be needing to paste that into the code files. I'll show you that in a minute. I'm not going to be changing my buy button right here. The next step that you want to do is essentially hit the next button here. And here you have the HTML and JavaScript code that you would normally copy paste into a different website to show a buy button for a particular product. And what we're looking for in here is a particular storefront access token. So once you've located this, go ahead and mark the value here, select copy, and go ahead over to Gadget, and in the create article file that we've created recently, there's this placeholder that says add your storefront access token in here. So let's go ahead and do that. And we can also go ahead and change the placeholder author name to, I'm just going to use my name here. And once we've done that, we're actually done with our app build. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you how it works in action once more, and then we're going to use that sort of fresh memory of seeing how the app works to sort of walk through both of these code files to make sure that you're comfortable with understanding what we're doing in there. So let's go back to our store. Let's go back to our magical GPT-3 articles. Let's come up with a good article title. I'm gonna say why ice cream is a good dessert even in the cold winter months. And then we're gonna show provided an article description, and this is just part of the prompt to GPT-3 saying like, hey, explain something, and I'm gonna say explain how or why. We're gonna say why ice cream can still be a good dessert during the cold winter months. And then we're going to select products that we want to have buy buttons added to the article for, as well as use product descriptions as part of the GPT-3 generated blog. So I want to have rainbow sprinkles, and I want to have cookie dough bites, and then just go ahead and create the article. And this is going to take a couple of seconds, and it's simply because the way that we've set up this front end is that it's simply waiting for GPT-3 to generate and respond with the response before we see this page. And once we've done that, it has created this article. So I'm going to go and open that link in a new tab here. And here we can see that we have our article created. I'm going to go ahead and change visibility to published, save it, hit view, and here you have our article with the buy buttons. You can use these to add to cart. And this is it. If you've gotten here, we've already created the app and it works. If you don't want to know how it works, you're done now. You can go ahead and use this. But if you're curious about how the inner workings of the files that we just created works, stick around and we'll sort of explain them. And we're going to start with the getinstall.js here. So at the top, I've just said that this file is a gadget route and has two purposes. It controls the app install logic and making sure that merchants are directed to the Shopify auth flow if needed. And it also generates and displays the HTML form that we use to capture the prompt input. So this is this here. So there's some gadget app admin logic that I'm not going to go and explain, but I'm going to start here and talk about how we generate the blog or the form really. So first of all, I use our internal APIs here to go ahead and fetch the products that we have in our local database here. And again, to be able to do that, you need to have hit that sync button that we did previously, because otherwise you're not going to have any products in your local database. And then I want to construct the list of these checkboxes. So I just run through with a for loop to generate this HTML, and I'm using boilerplate Polaris HTML here. I'm sure that this can be tidied up quite a bit, but I just used what I found in the Polaris documentation. And the important piece here, if you do clean it up, is obviously that you want to pass on the product ID here as the value, because we're going to need that in this create article JavaScript to fetch more information about the products. So this is just going to generate one checkbox for every product that you have in your database. If you have a lot of products, this might get a little bit clunky, but if you're good with JavaScript, you can figure out how to make that better. And then we're going to go ahead and generate the HTML. And worth noting here is that we're using an HTTP route. So we're going to be sending our response, or we're going to be generating this page that you're seeing using reply.send to render the HTML. This is a little bit clunky, but it's okay for this very simple use case. If you prefer to make a fancier front end with Vercel or Netlify or something like that, you can definitely do that. We have tutorials of how to do that together with Gadget, but for purposes of keeping this demo simple, I'm just going to be using this. It looks clunky, but it works. So here we're just generating the HTML. So first of all, we're including the Polaris style sheets here. Here we just have the headings, and then we have a lot of boilerplate Polaris form HTML. And we're going to be sending this data off to the create article JavaScript file that we have here. And here you can see we have the article title, we have the article description, and then we're inserting all of these checkboxes that we generated up here. And then we're done with it. We have our submit button here that we call create article. So this is really everything that you need to know about this page. So let's then jump over to the create article JavaScript snippet here and explain what it does. It's a little bit more involved. So imagine that we fill this up, we hit create article. What happens is that this file will capture this information, process it, send it to GPT-3, get an article back, and submit that to Shopify. So it does this in 4 steps. It captures and transforms the form data, like I said, and fetches the selected product descriptions. That's why we got to pass in the product IDs in the form. It constructs a GPT-3 prompt. It sends it to GPT-3 and receives the response. It adds dynamic buy buttons to this text that we're passing into Shopify, and then we're creating a blog article in Shopify using all of this. And again, we've done these things, but I just want to highlight, remember to sync data from Shopify to your Gadget app before you're doing this. You only need to sync it once, then webhooks keeps it up to date. And also remember to replace the storefront access token that we did here. Otherwise, the buy buttons won't work. And then choose whatever article author you want to have. Similar to on the get installed page, I forgot to say that all of our code that we're sort of running is going to be inside this module.exports function. And before we run that, we also set up the OpenAI or required OpenAI NPM package. Then we load a bunch of configuration and placeholders that we need. And then we're fetching the form data and transforming it a little bit. We're fetching all of the object keys, so that's just the keys that we had in our form. We take the article title and the article description and store them to their own variables, create a bunch of placeholders here, and then we're starting to construct the GPT-3 prompt. So I do this, you can do this in different ways, but the way that I chose to do it a little bit scrappier is I just create an array with all the product IDs selected in the form. All of the checkboxes include the word product in the name, so I'm just fetching all of those and then collecting the value of it, which is going to be the product ID, and then I'm just storing all of these to this array that I've created up here. And I'm immediately using them to fetch all of the products information from the Gadget database. So I'm just calling the api.shopifyproduct.findMany, which fetches information from this model that we have here. I have a filter with ID and saying I want all the products that have an ID that is in this product array that we just fetched. And that just means that for any product that you select here, this GraphQL query is going to go ahead and fetch all the information from our product database here. And what I'm doing next is I'm going to be using that information to construct something that we want to pass to GPT-3. So for GPT-3 to create a blog description that mentions these products and incorporates the text about them in the blog post, we need to pass the information about them. So here for every single product that we're fetching in here, I'm just going to be running through that in a for loop and creating a sort of an aggregate product description blob of text. And they're just going to say product one title, and then I'm going to be passing in the product title that we have for a product, and then product one description, and then I'm passing in the product description. And if you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 products, however many you have, we're just generating this, and this holds all of the context for our products. And then next, we're going to be creating our prompt that we're sending off to GPT-3. And this prompt is just for demo purposes. I've played around with a bunch of various prompt formats, but do explore what kind of prompt that gives you the result that you want. It can be a little bit finicky, but do some searching online and I'm sure that you'll find something that is useful for you. In my case, I'm just saying write a 15 to 20 paragraph long blog post intended to sell a product from an e-commerce store. It's titled and we're passing in the article title. Return your answer with HTML markup for P for paragraph and BR for line breaks, and in the following format. 4 paragraphs about the description, and this is essentially what we're putting in here. Give me a line break, 5 paragraphs describing why the products fit into this context, line break, and a paragraph summary. And then I'm providing that these are the products, and then this blob of text that we created up here. Then I have a couple of parameters that I set here. I'm not going to go into details of those. I have max token set to 2000 though, which is max close to the maximum value, just to make sure that even if we're passing in a lot of information, GPT-3 can handle that and provide us a long enough response. And then we store the response that GPT-3 sends back into what I call new article body here. And then we're going to start constructing the blog body HTML. And this is essentially what we want to put into this form here, because articles in Shopify can be stored as HTML. So I want to do that so this looks good when we load it on a web page. I want to construct some HTML here. And that's also why we here have asked GPT-3 to try to respond in HTML, because it's going to make our life easier. So we're going to start by constructing the buy button HTML, and it's essentially what makes up this here. I'm not going to go into the details. If you know a little bit of JavaScript and HTML, you'll figure out what it does, but it's essentially logic here to make sure that we get 2 of these side by side if we have 2 or more, and then making sure if we have 3 that we have a third one that appears in the middle between these, and then if you have 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, whatever, it just looks tidy enough for demo purposes. So I do a little bit of logic around that here, and then what I have here in the buy button JS here is essentially the JavaScript and HTML that we're getting from here. So I've just copy pasted that. So if you want to change what your buy buttons look like and sort of style them as you can do here, you have to replace the code that I have in here. And when you do that, make sure to remember to also replace the hard-coded values that you get from the buy button code with what I've done here. So the domain here, I'm passing in the shop domain that this app is installed on. We can get that dynamically from Gadget. We're passing in the storefront access token that we pasted above earlier. I'm pasting in the product ID, and this is just for the byte button to be able to know which product am I supposed to show, and we're getting that from the GraphQL query that we ran previously. And then I just have a ID for the product, sorry, for the div that we're just telling the JavaScript here to insert the information into. So if you do update this code here, make sure that you just get these things in the right place. But it works out of the box, so just go ahead and leave it as it is if you're not sure how to do this. Then I just tack on a couple of things to end the table here. And then I'm, see, I could actually change this, make it a little bit better. Just gonna have this cleaned up when you actually get the code file. And then we're adding the by button HTML and the by button JS to this text that we got back from GPT-3. And then we're going to go ahead and send this all off to Shopify. And that's super simple to do with Gadget because we have this Gadget integration. So what we're doing first is that I'm just going to go ahead and find the ID of the blog that we're going to post the article to, because Shopify needs that in the API call. And then we're just establishing a Shopify connection for the shop that has this app installed and is running this particular file. And then once that is set up, we're going to be using the Shopify API. We're going to be calling the article endpoint, and we're going to use the create method because we want to create an article. We're going to pass in the blog ID to tell Shopify which blog that this article is going to live on. And I'm doing something little lazy here. I assume that a merchant doesn't have more than one one blog, so I'm just going to use one value here. And then we're passing in the article author. We're passing in the article title that we generated. And this is just essentially what you put in here. The new article body that we've generated, and then I've set published to false, and that just means that it will be saved in as a draft and not automatically published. And that is everything that this app does, and you've already seen it in action. So it essentially just creates an article, and we can go ahead and just show it again. So again, let's say that come up with something new. Why you shouldn't go to the beach without bringing ice cream. And then we can say that hot summer day at the beach is better with ice cream. And just to show you, let's select something else. We're going to take the terrific toffee sauce, the supreme strawberry sauce, and we're going to take some mini marshmallows and just use an uneven number of these. And then we're going to hit create article here. And again, Gadget and GPT-3 does its magic behind the scenes. It takes a few seconds here, and once it's done, we'll see this blog article be generated. And then we go ahead and open link in new tab here. And we don't always get, so now we got perfectly structured data. We don't always get it. GPT-3 sometimes just return a blob of text without these paragraphs. So play around with that a little bit. And if we show the HTML here, you can see all of these by button code that we've done. So let's go ahead and save it as visible, and then go ahead and view it. And here you have it. There's nothing quite like a hot summer day at the beach, blah, 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 with ice cream, of course. And then we can see terrific toffee sauce ice cream topping is a rich blah, blah, blah. It's perfect for drizzling over your favorite ice cream. So it's just GPT-3 using this little input that we provided with the title and the context, and then using product descriptions to generate these. And here you see this in action where we have 3 byte buttons with one centered below. Okay, that's it. That's the end of the tutorial. I really hope you enjoyed it. I sure enjoyed putting it together. It is scrappy at times, and the code is scrappy as well. I essentially put this together as quickly as I can and do this in pretty much one take. But I hope that it inspired you to build with GPT-3 or build Shopify apps. That's really what it's meant to do. If you have any questions about the tutorial, I'll leave some links to some social media channels that I'm active on. Feel free to reach out there. And if you're curious about building Shopify apps in general or using Gadget, go to gadget.dev, open up our Discord, and ask me or my colleagues any questions that you have. We would be super curious to hear what kind of apps you're looking to build and hopefully how Gadget might be able to help you build them. Anyway, that's it for this tutorial. Maybe I'll see you in the next one. Until then, take care. Bye.